application we have wrote contains the code that connects to web services, posts data, gets data, and deletes and edits data from the web services. But the application right now doesn't tell the user what it's doing. It doesn't tell the user that that the data that the user wanted to add to the database was added successfully. It doesn't also tell the user that the data was deleted successfully or that there is some problem when getting the data from the web service. So this part of the application interactivity doesn't exist yet. So the purpose of today's demo is to add that part to the application so that the application is always telling the user what it is doing, what is making it busy. It will tell the user that it's doing the process of sending the data to the database, and it tells also that operation was successful or not. So let's go and get started.
Hi developers, let's go and enhance our Xamarin Forms applications that we have started developing. So right now the application, when I go to the add a new employee and type a name for an employee and his department, I go to hit post employee to send this data to the web service. When I hit post, the application doesn't react. It doesn't tell me it's sending the data to the web service, and also it doesn't tell me if the operation was done successfully or not. So the purpose of this demo is to go and make our application interacts with the user to tell him what it's doing and if these operations was done successfully or not. So to do this, we will add a property of type boolean. This property will indicate each time what the application, if the application is doing something in the background. So for that, I'll go to my main view model and I'll add a new property. PROP to create the property. The property will be of type boolean and I'll call it is busy. This property will indicate if the application is sending data or is retrieving data from the web services. So I'll make it have a backing field, and is busy because we will use it on our main page on the user interface. We'll make it call on property changes so that it will refresh its value each time it changes, its status changes. After creating the isBusy property, I go to the commands, the operations my application is doing, to the post command, and here when I hit the post command, it will execute this command. So during the execution of this command, I'll make the isBusy property true, then false. True so that I can understand that my application is now doing some work. This work is posting the employee to the web service. Whenever the application finishes sending the employee to the web service, isBusy will be bound to will be set to true, to false, sorry. So the isBusy, it's indicating whether my application is doing some work in the background. So I'll make it inside my post command, but also inside the other commands related to the put. When it finishes, it will be again false. We'll do the same thing for the delete command is busy equal false whenever it finishes the operation. We can do the same for our search command. So now that my command have that property indicating whether the operation starts and finishes, now I'll go and use this property is busy inside my user interface. Here inside my actually add new employee page, here where I have this user interface. So I'll go and after the three buttons and add an indicator here. Activity indicator. This activity indicator will be bound to will be bound to my is busy property, so that this activity indicator will be running each time the is busy property is set to true, and will stop running when my activity when is busy come back to be false. By doing this only, my activity indicator will be will always take place inside the user interface. So if I go here and click Ctrl F5 to test that inside the Android emulator, add new employee. Now the activity indicator is still running. How we can fix that issue? Maybe we can go here to the main page and actually to the new employee page. Here we'll also use another property which is visible property, and bind it also to is busy. So here whenever the activity indicator is running, it will be visible to the user. If it's not running, then it will not be visible to the user. So let's check that. Let's try to add a new one. First employee. Yeah, here it is. And you saw it. It appears quickly, then it disappears because the operation was done quickly. So now let's move on and here actually the application, whenever I hit post employee, it displays that activity indicator, but it doesn't tell me if the operation of posting the employee was done successfully or not. So here I need some way to notify me about the success of the operation. Here actually we can use display sheet, or we can go for a much simpler scenario where I will add a status message here to show if the operation is successful or not. So if I go back here to my REST client, you see that each operation have some return type. So here my post async operation returns a boolean which indicates is success status code. This one will be retrieved from the HTTP response here. This response indicates whether the operation was successful on the server side or not. So we'll use this one to show it to our user. So this one is of type boolean, but of course you don't want to show your user a boolean value. Instead, we will map it to a message. That message will be called status message. So let's take those responses from the post, put, and delete operations, and let's go to also use those values inside the employee services. So here you see that the employee services calls the REST client, but it doesn't return the states code to the main view model. So we'll go and make it return that result. That result is of type boolean. So for that, I'll go and change this method to return a task of boolean, and I'll go and add return is successful states code. I'll do the same thing for the other operations. So it returns boolean, then it will return the is state success code. The same here for the delete. Return is success status code. Good. So now our main view model, which uses this employee services object, will be able to get the states code indicating whether the operation is successful or not. For that, we'll go here and use that result to map it to a message that will call it, let's say, status message. So let's create our property of type string that will be called status message. The status message will use onProperty changes. So the status message now will take its value from the return value of the post employee and delete and put employee operations. So now, as we have changed the post employee to return a boolean, then here I can get that value. Let's call it is success. And now I'll go and check if that value is success equal true. Then I'll go and write in the status message that the operation that let's say post employee done successfully, for example. And else it will show to the user a message saying that operation failed. Here it's good, of course, to indicate the name of operation post failed. We'll do this same thing for the other commands. So here, of course, I can get rid of the equal to true, copy this code and use it here. So here is success to get the status of that operation. Then if is success equal true, is success. Then here I tell that the operation put employee done successfully, otherwise I'll show to the user that the operation put failed. The same here, var is success. Then show to the user that delete operation delete. Okay, so now let's go and try it in our Android emulator. So let's go and add a new employee. Let's call it Nether. Let's give it department sales, for example. Now you go and hit post employee. So you see here it displays the activity indicator, but it doesn't display the status message. Why? Because we didn't added a label to show the status message. So I'll go and add that label after the activity indicator, for example. So here I go create a label, give it make that the text property bind to our status message. Let's make that label have some nice text color. Let's choose, for example, the green. Of course, you want to make the text color looks green if the status message was successful, and make it red if the operation was not successful. Of course, here I'd go and make my font, the font size of that label looks bigger. Let's say, for example, let's choose 24, for example. Add a new employee, Nether, sales, post employee. So yeah, here it is, our status message showing that the post employee was done successfully. That's good right now. Let's go actually and try to delete an employee. So here I'll come back to the application and try some, let's say, for example, I'll go and delete this one, command from sales, delete employee. So here it is, delete employee done successfully. So my application now is way much more better in terms of user interactivity. So let's go and make it even more user interactive. And you see here, if I come back to the first page, to my main page, here I have deleted one of the employees, but the application here doesn't refresh. Why is that? Because when I go back, the application doesn't go and retrieve the list of employees automatically. So what I will do is to add another button here. I'll call it refresh, so that the user will be able to refresh the data anytime he wants to do that. So I'll go to my main page, and as I have the add employee and search employees button, I'll add another button by copying one of those here and call it refresh. Text color white, go and change the background color to olive, for example. And here, instead of using the click it event, I'll go and create a command. The command will be bound to a command that I will call refresh command. So I don't have yet the refresh command. For that, I'll go and create it inside my main view model. So here, as I have the post, put, delete and search commands, I'll go and add another command for that will refresh the data. It's a type command and I'll call it refresh command. The refresh command have only a getter. That getter will return a new command. The new command will have an action that points directly to the initialized data async, because remember, the initialized data async is the method responsible for getting the employees and assigning that value to the employees list. So we only need to point to this initialized data async. So to do that, I go and create an async operation that will point to the initialize data async. Initialize data async is an asynchronous method, so I need to add the await keyword. So now I have the refresh button. Whenever I click on the refresh button, the application will download the newest list of the employees, but here again I don't have anything that tells me whether my application is refreshing. Here when I click the refresh button, I don't see that activity indicator indicating that my application is busy. So to do that, I'll add that logic code inside the initialize data async. So here I'll go and set the is busy property to true, as it's here doing the work of getting that list of employee from the web service. After it finishes that operation, is busy will return back to be false. Now let's go and add that activity indicator to our main page. Let's make it after the refresh button. Activity indicator is running will be bound to the is busy property, and the same thing for is visible also will be bound to the is busy property. Control F5 and let's see it. So now I go and hit the refresh button. You see here the activity indicator appears quickly, then it disappears because the application retrieves the data quickly. So now if I go to the search employees and search for an employee which have the keyword in his name, hit search, then you see the application doesn't display an activity indicator. For that, I'll add that an activity indicator to this search page. The only thing I will do is to copy this activity indicator to my search page and call it after the search button. So you see here it's when you use it only one time, this is busy property could be reusable in many places in your application code. With that, I need to make the search command uses the isBusy. It's already using the isBusy. So now Control F5 and let's test it. So if I go to search employees, hit keyword search, then here you see the that activity indicator appears quickly. Now let's test our application in Windows 8 and Windows Phone. So here if I click the refresh button, you see here you get that activity indicator showing instantly. And if I select one of the employees and hit delete employee, then you see it tells that the delete employee was done successfully. The same for Windows device. If I hit refresh, then you see here that activity indicator appears and disappears quickly. If I select one of the employees here and hit delete employee, here you get that message telling that the delete employee was done successfully. So thank you.